Hello and welcome to the stream. So this will be my last Kerbal Space Program stream for a little while at least. Might be my last in general. One of the main reasons why I did these streams is to sort of set a comparison for when Kitten Space Agency comes out. Kitten Space Agency being a sort of spiritual successor to Kerbal Space Program. And I'm really looking forward to that one, but I wanted to have a few streams of Kerbal Space Program to, establish some comparison. And these streams have done very well. Especially on YouTube. I've been getting more viewership on YouTube on these videos than I ever have before. Still not, nearly as much as the channels that would be considered successful get, but by my standards, they've been huge. So, I'm going to be moving on to another game after this. I do have a pretty good idea of what it's going to be, but I don't like to announce these things beforehand. But I'm not sure how much that viewership will carry over. I imagine a lot of them just like Kerbal stuff, but maybe some of it will, or at least the algorithm will keep recommending my videos. So hopefully that'll help maintain some viewership on the channel going forward. But anyway, to the game itself, my probe to Ike is almost there. So let's get that captured. So we should be arriving at Duna. Let's see. Oh, there's Duna. Doesn't have the full SAS, so I'll have to aim for the node manually. Okay, and while I'm here, let's get some science from low Duna orbit. Let's see how much science we have. Okay, almost 900. Now, I set up this capture so that now I captured into a very elliptical orbit. That was intentional. And I set up the height of that orbit very deliberately so that now if I add a maneuver at the top, then I should be able to intersect with Ike near the bottom of the orbit. And that should give me a fairly efficient path to get into Ike orbit, which is where I need to be. And since this is a scanning satellite, I need to be in a polar orbit. So let's get this set up here. Okay, so this maneuver is at 67.3 degrees. I need to get that up to 90 degrees. So let's start making some adjustments. $85.5, we're getting closer. actually 3.5. I think I screwed that up. Is that better? Yeah. 5.9, but I want to be lower. Oh, I've overshot, so 3.0, 2.1. Okay. 89.9, 90.1. Not quite there yet. It'd be really nice if I could keep the inclination on the screen while I'm making my adjustments, but I can't. All right, so that should get me into a nice polar orbit. So let's do some time warping and do the burn. Okay, overshot a bit, but now let's see what my inclination will be when I get there. 91.1. So now if I go retrograde, set my thrust limiter down as low as it can go, and give it a little puff. Still 91.1. Oh, it's going down. Sometimes you have to adjust the node before it'll show you anything. There we are. Now our capture is going to be at 90 degrees, which is exactly where we need to be. Now, if it was slightly off, it wouldn't make too much of a difference, but if you can get it perfect, why not get it perfect? Now, I think 400 will be the best place for it, but I'm not sure. I'm going to have to do a test when I get closer. And to do that test, my scanner will need to be deployed, so oops. Okay, that didn't work. I overshot my node. Okay. Luckily, I saved it. I want to get into Ike's sphere of influence, but I don't want to get too close to the burn because I want to try to run an orbital survey. And yeah, I've got between 25 kilometers and 650 kilometers, so I've got to be below 650, which 400 kilometers is. And to do this, to use this other ore scanner that gets a more precise reading, that has to be below 500 kilometers. So in general, I like to orbit at 400. That gets me well within that range, but still pretty high up, because the higher up your relay is, the better your chances are of having a line of sight with it. So let's capture. Oh, and I don't have radio communication with Kerbin. There must be something blocking, blocking the signal. Probably Ike itself. Yeah, so I get reasonably close, and yeah, I'll just have to make the final adjustments once I get back into contact, and there I am. So I still want to get to 400 kilometers. Okay, good. My apoapsis is where I want it to be. Now, the next step will be to ditch this main engine, because when I'm actually in orbit, I just want to have my eye on engine. So, just before I get to the apoapsis, set a node that will get me on a collision course with the surface. And now let's get ourselves out of that collision course with the surface, because I don't want to crash. Hopefully, I'll be able to get into our proper circular orbit with this burn, but if I can't, then we can come around again. Now that I'm not going to crash anymore, since our periapsis is at 80 kilometers now. So we're safe, but we're not exactly where we need to be. And we've got a spammer, which I'll take care of after the stream. Okay. Yeah, if I keep burning, then the apoapsis is going to go up, which I don't want. So I'll set a node, and then we should be able to get into a nice circular orbit next time we come around. Solar panels are facing the sun, so we don't run out of electricity on the way around. Kind of good that I get the spammer this early. It's often hard for me to find where they are in the VOD so that I can blur them out, which I do because I don't want my stream to be advertising for spammers. So, whenever they show up in my chat, I have to make sure that that I blur them so that nobody can see what their address is. Oh, I just got my my probe into orbit around Ike, so I'm going to be doing the orbital survey. See where the ore deposits are on the planet, well, on the moon. Okay, and that doesn't tell us too much, since, yeah. Oh no. I guess there isn't very much ore on Ike in this playthrough. The spammers, yeah. Now, there are some settings I can do on Twitch that I think they have restrictions on, you know, how old an account can be and still post, which once I've got a decent number of people actually in the chat, I'll probably set that up, but I don't want to be cutting off anyone now when I'm still trying to build things up. But yeah, my cutoff is at 30% here, and I'm just barely getting some ore deposits. So yeah, it looks like in this playthrough, Ike doesn't have very much ore, which will be a bit of a problem, but I think even these areas will still give me enough ore to get by. And let's turn on the other ore scanner, which isn't actually all that useful, but I like to have it on there anyway. And let's send some science back to Kerbin. I forgot to get science in high Duna orbit. I did get some from low Duna orbit, but let's see, did that? Oh, but I'm over 1,000 science anyway, which is what I've been building up to. So yeah, now that we've got our probe around Ike, that means any future missions that we send to Ike, for one thing, they'll know where the ore is, and for another more important thing is they won't need to have enormous antennas on them because they'll be able to use that relay to get their signals back to Kerbin. But it'll be a little while before we can do that. The next Duna launch window is more than a year away. So, but there's other things we can do in the meantime. Let's go back to our Mun station and send our science back from that. Now, as I'd mentioned this earlier, but Arctic Rich Gaming, you weren't here yet, so I figure I'll mention it again, is that this is going to be my last Kerbal stream for a while. I'll be moving on to other games after this. And I imagine I'm probably going to lose some viewership then, because I imagine a lot of people who watch, at least on YouTube, are watching for Kerbal content. That's what they're interested in. But with how well these streams have done, though, maybe I'll still retain some of my viewers on YouTube when I move on to other things, so hopefully that'll help build up this channel. I'm not sure if I will be streaming Kerbal again after this. You know, obviously not immediately, but one thing I'm really looking forward to is Kitten Space Agency, which is a spiritual successor that's being developed to Kerbal Space Program. Thanks. Yeah, I think I'll be playing retro stuff for a little while after this. That's what I normally play, is retro and indie stuff, and this kind of qualifies. I mean, Kerbal Space Program's more than a decade old, and it was developed kind of as an indie project. It was developed by an advertising company, I think, that had never developed a video game before, and I think still doesn't develop any video games, so it kind of qualifies. Okay, so we're above 1,000 science. So now I can unlock this, which is a radioisotope thermoelectric generator, or an RTG for short. And this will allow me to send probes to the outer planets, like Jool and Elu. These because on those outer planets, they're so far from the sun that solar panels don't work very well. So you need another source of electricity, and these provide that. They don't provide as much as a solar panel near the sun would, but they provide enough to keep the lights on, essentially. So let's research that, and can't send one for a little while, 160 days, which isn't too far out. I got an Eve launch window in 78 days. I have the technology for that already, but that can wait for a little while. But another thing that I've been able to unlock while I was just kind of advancing time between streams is I've got enough now to start mining Minmus and the Mun. So that's what I'm going to be doing next. So let's get that set up. Now first, I'm going to need something to put crew in, because I'm going to be landing some crew on this mission, because why not? Give them the experience. So I got this crew capsule, which is not a ship. It doesn't have a probe core or a command module or anything like that. It can't fly on its own, but it's got place for crew, and it's got 2 docking ports, so I can attach it to ships if I want to. And the ship I'm going to be attaching it to is my Minmus miner. So let's merge that. All right. Now this is designed to land on Minmus, fill its ore tanks, and then get back into orbit. So, it's got landing legs. It's, again, got a docking port on both sides so that it can attach to a station. And it's got these drills, which will be mining ore with. But to use that ore because you can convert ore into fuel, but this ship doesn't have the equipment needed to do that. So in order to do that, we'll be putting up a space station around it. So let's get that set up. And let's see how much, yeah, we don't have nearly enough delta V to actually get us to Minmus, so let's set up an extra fuel tank and engine. Yeah, that should be plenty. Oh, and let's rotate this so that our lander engines won't be just burning out our antennas here. So yeah, this is a space station that I'm going to be putting into orbit around Minmus. It's got everything you need to convert ore into fuel. It's got its own probe core, little cargo bay here, just because it's useful to be able to store cargo on these things. Some radiators. These ones are retractable radiators, and the way they work is that they can grab heat from anywhere on the vessel, which I won't be using these that often, but sometimes for whatever reason the whole vessel will heat up, and this will let me deal with that heat. Then we got a little crew compartment so that people can stay on the station if they need to. Big battery, a big reaction wheel. I don't think I had that unlocked last time, but it works the same way our smaller reaction wheels do. It lets me turn the vessel around just using electric power. And this is the main component. This is what's going to be used to convert ore into fuel. There's 2 of these that you can choose from. There's this one and a smaller one. The smaller one is not very efficient. A lot of the ore that that uses gets wasted, so I don't like to put those on my space stations. Actually, I pretty rarely use those. So there is one purpose I use those for. Not sure if I'll be getting to that this stream. And now those run pretty hot, so it needs these radiators, which they only deal with heat from the part that they're attached to and one part over. And technically, they are not attached to this this ore converter. These top ones are attached to the reaction wheel, and the bottom ones are attached to the ore tank here. And but then I just moved and rotated them into place so that they're covering the ore converter. And yeah, then we got a fuel tank, some more docking ports, and some big giant solar panels, which will be used to generate all the power that we're going to need to do all that conversion. So that's almost ready to go, but there's one more thing I would like to put on this, which is, and I don't want a shroud on this, and okay, a smallish fuel tank, but I'm not going to use any fuel. And then a decoupler. And another one of our little satellites. Now, this one will not be going to Minmus, it'll be going to the Mun, because after I set this this mission up, I want to get some mining set up on the Mun as well. I'll have to use different techniques for that, but since I don't have a satellite in orbit around the Mun yet, I'll have to set that up now. And so this will be hitching a ride on this launch. Once it's launched into orbit, I'll be detaching this from this whole assembly and sending this assembly to Minmus and this one to the Mun, but might as well just have one launch instead of two. And let's get our staging set up in a reasonable way. Okay, and is that vacuum? Yeah, that's vacuum. I'm going to give it a little bit of ore that I can convert to fuel after we've circularized. Yeah, that should be enough. That way I don't have to worry about using so much fuel in the circularization that I won't have enough to get back to Minmus. Yeah, this still needs to be big to get around the ore scanner. Okay, so how heavy is this? 46 tons. Okay. This might be difficult to get into orbit, but let's see what we can do. I don't have the really big engines unlocked yet. Alright, so those are our boosters. Let's get a nose cone on these and get some, I'll get them attached at the bottom. Like I mentioned earlier on an earlier stream, I like to put my decoupler at the top so that way they get pushed away from the ship top first when I detach them, and that way the top will get caught in the wind, and that'll cause the whole the whole thing to be pulled away from the vessel so it doesn't slam into it. And I'm going to want 4 of these, but I don't want four-way symmetry because they're not all going to be set up exactly the same way. Because I'm going to be using asparagus staging for this, which is each stage is going to feed into the next one. So this stage is going to feed into the main tank, so that the main tank will be full when I detach this. And then this stage will feed into the other stage, into the other booster, so that this booster will still be full when I attach these ones. And that's the most efficient way to get things into orbit. So, and now let's get our staging right. Now let's see if this will get us in. This will get us into space. What am I going to put on this? Right, you've orbited around the Mun, but you haven't landed on anything. And I'm also going to want a scientist. Okay, she's planted a flag on the Mun, so I don't want that. He hasn't done anything. So yeah, let's see if I can get these people into space. I think I could have given this more curve. Yeah, I think I'll revert and give this a bit more curve. Alright, let's hope I can get into the upper atmosphere on this stage. Okay, I'm not getting as high as I wanted to, but I think I'll still be okay. I can't activate the next stage yet because I'm still so low in the atmosphere that the air resistance will be a problem. Okay, something went wrong. Oh, I didn't actually stage this properly. Yeah, okay. Well, we'll just have to do that again. Always check and recheck your staging. Only way to fly safe. Oh, that was a bad launch. That's a little bit less of a curve than I gave it before, so hopefully that'll let me get higher into the atmosphere before I need to stage. And hopefully this time my staging won't cause us to blow up. Hopefully we won't explode was my mantra for the first stream, but it applies here just as well as it did there. Alright, so yeah, we're getting still not as high up as I usually like to get before I stage away my fairings and everything. We'll be at 57 kilometers, where I usually like to get up to 65, but we were only at 50 kilometers before, so it's better than that. Okay, good. Properly staged this time. Now I'm just hoping that I have enough fuel to circularize and get to Minmus. And my time to apoapsis is going down, which I don't like. But my apoapsis itself is above 60, which means we'll be getting into the very thin part of the atmosphere at least. If this hasn't started going up by the time we get down to 30 seconds, then I will stop following prograde so that our nose will start to drift up relative to it. But no, it looks like... Oh, okay, good. Time to apoapsis is going up, so we should be safe. Unless we run out of fuel. Now, I took some ore so that we can refill our fuel tanks once we're circularized. I didn't expect us to need this much, but let's see what we can do. Let's actually start converting that ore. So let's activate our radiators so we don't overheat. And start making some rocket fuel. We're up in the 60s, so we shouldn't be encountering too much air resistance. Even. Because we're really not shaped well for air resistance. Not a very aerodynamic shape. Let's target Minmus as well. Oh, but yeah, I won't be able to get on Minmus's plane anyway because I've got some of this cargo is going to the Mun, not to Minmus. And we're getting close to 70, so let's set up our maneuver node. Okay, so it's not going to take very much fuel to get into orbit. That's good. And now we're in space. And since I've upgraded the, I've unlocked some new probe cores, and the one I'm using in this mission has all of the SAS unlocked, which is nice. That means I can automatically set it to point towards the maneuver node. I won't have to manually pilot to that. And that makes things a lot easier. Okay, we're in orbit. Now, hopefully we'll be able to get enough fuel from that ore that it'll take more than that, though. I just remembered I don't just need enough fuel to get to Minmus, I need enough fuel to land and take off again. Alright, let's detach this. Extend our solar panels so that we don't run out of energy. Extend the solar panels on this one too, since it's its own independent ship now. Oh no. Is this already? This is already out of electricity. I think I'm gonna have to do this launch again. I didn't leave myself with enough fuel, and I didn't leave this thing with electricity. So let's give this a bit more ore. And to compensate for that, let's put some more fuel on this thing. Oh, I didn't properly set up symmetry. Don't want four-way symmetry, but I do want two-way symmetry. There, that should do it. Everything else is still set up the way it should be, so yeah, let's launch. Oh, I can't launch because the launch pad needs to be upgraded, which is fine. I've got lots of money. That's the last upgrade for the launch pad, so now I should be able to launch anything. And let's make sure I still have my crew on board. Yes, I do. Let's try this again. This time I'm going to start the fuel conversion right now so that it can be converting fuel for us on the way up. Probably won't do too much, but since I've got an engineer on here, it might make enough to make a difference. Oh, this isn't a fuel tank. This is my everything else. This is a fuel tank. This is a fairing that's covering everything that's not the fuel tank. Okay. So, I'm out of fuel on my main stage, but I'm generating new fuel for it. Let's see how much fuel I'm going to generate by the time I get up. It doesn't look like I'm actually going to generate very much. Stop the fuel before I stage, so that I don't waste any. Okay, this is way lower in the atmosphere than I'd like to be at this point, because this is not an aerodynamic ship now that I've gotten rid of my fairing. But let's see if I can still get into space. Let's turn on fuel generation again. Okay, time to apoapsis is going up. That's good. Oh. Thanks, Yalsti. Oh. It's dropped because we are so unaerodynamic that it's really having an impact here. Okay, hopefully that'll be enough. My apoapsis is dropping into the atmosphere again, so I'm going to get a bit more of a boost. Well, the most efficient way to thrust is by thrusting exactly prograde. I don't know if the losses from aerodynamics would be more or less than the losses from thrusting away from prograde, but either way, we're in orbit now. Okay, now let's make sure we keep generating electricity. And let's make sure this also keeps generating electricity even when it's detached, because that's why we had to revert the last launch. But we don't want to detach it just yet because we're not in orbit yet. And now we're in orbit. So let's detach this. Let's just get this set up properly. Because this is a satellite that I'm going to be sending to the Mun, while the rest of my mission is going to the Minmus. Okay, so it's ready to go. So now let's see what happens when we time warp to the point that we use up all of our ore. We're not using up all of our ore. I must have turned the ore generation off and not turned it back on again. So let's try that again. Okay. 1269, nice. And let's see what happens when we fill up these tanks. And then turn them off. 691. Okay, so we don't have quite enough fuel to get into Minmus orbit without using the fuel in these tanks, which isn't ideal. I wanted to have these tanks full so that I don't have to worry about running out of fuel when I do my landing for the mining. But that's still okay. I can just take off from Minmus before we've completely filled our ore tank. And since our ore tank will be lighter, then we won't need as much fuel. But I'm going to reload my save because we wasted some time time warping when our ore wasn't being generated. Oh, and this should be a pretty efficient transfer to Minmus, because the point where Minmus is in its proper position in orbit is pretty close to where okay, maybe not so close. Yeah, and actually we can't do the transfer just yet because we need to generate fuel. So while we're waiting for that, let's transfer this one. This one is going to the Mun. Get as close as possible. Well, not that close. 10 kilometers is a good height. That way we're pretty close, so we can do an efficient capture, but we're not so close that we risk crashing. 12 kilometers is good enough. Now, this one does not have the full SAS, so I'll have to do this. I'll have to line up for this maneuver manually. What just happened? Did I slam into my station? Oh yeah, I'm heading directly towards my station. Okay, so let's reload our save. I give myself a little puff prograde right now, so that in the 16 minutes before we hit the node, we should be in a different position and not in danger of slamming into the station. But now we've got to readjust the node because that was for a slightly different velocity. Okay, that should be good. Okay, hopefully this time we won't slam into our station. Now, this one we need to get into a polar orbit because the purpose of this is to scan for ore deposits. So let's do that. Same way we did at Ike, which is to, well, sort of the same way. To get into what looks like a polar orbit and then use the maneuver node to test it. So we're not quite polar. And it's zooming in and adjusting my orbit, which I don't want it to do, but it's another bug in Kerbal Space Program. Okay, it's not doing it anymore. Okay, so that actually got me the wrong direction where I want to go, but let's see if that helps. Oh, I overshot. A little bit further. Still a little bit further. And there we are. Okay. Now, that node wasn't actually for maneuvering, it was just to see where my inclination was. But I can't get rid of it because Kerbal's... oh, there it goes. Okay. So, let's set an alarm clock for that. And let's look at our station again. Still don't have enough fuel to get to Minmus, so let's go back to our satellite and do our burn. Okay, so we're probably going to have to do some... oh, I set that to 0. I don't want my thrust limiter at 0. I want it as low as it can go without being at 0. So 0.5. It's good. And set a... I like to set my adjustment nodes at about 3 minutes. That way I have time to make the adjustment, but I don't have to wait too long. So let's see... what our okay, we're pretty close. 90.1. There, that's dead on. And it was just a retrograde adjustment, so I don't have to use the maneuvers. I can just, well, I still want this maneuver so that I can see what my new inclination is going to be. Why is this not changing? There it goes. Give it a little bit more, just to be safe, and then, yeah, that'll be it. Let's get our engines back up to full power and set up our capture node. And like before, I like to set these to 400 kilometers so that both ore scanners will work, but when I get into Mun's sphere of influence, I'm going to verify that. Okay, let's set an alarm for that. And now let's go back again to our mining mission. Okay, we've converted all of our ore, so let's stop that. And we have more than enough fuel to get to Minmus. But what we really need is enough fuel to get there, land, and then get back. Well, get back into orbit with enough fuel to land again. Okay, I didn't mean to hit that. Normally you don't want to use these radial in and radial out nodes, because it usually makes more sense just to move to a different point on your orbit and burn from there. Am I above or below? I am above. Just get into exactly the right spot. Okay, that should be good. Now this time I do have the right type of SAS to automatically go towards the maneuver node, which makes things a lot easier. And I'm going to put all of my fuel into those tanks because I'm going to be dropping this fuel tank once I get into orbit around Minmus, and then doing all the rest of my maneuvers just with these engines here. So now let's do our adjustments to actually get into a good capture trajectory. I think this ship is on a equatorial orbit, so let's match it. Now these other ships that I have in orbit, they're from rescue missions. I haven't gotten rid of their discarded pods yet, but I will be doing that eventually. Set an alarm for this. And let's finish the Mun mission. And just like I did, well, first of all, let's make sure I'm in the right, yeah, I'm in the right inclination. And just like I did at Ike, I'm going to set a maneuver node just before we get to apoapsis to get onto a collision course, because I want to drop my main engine and circularize with my little ion engine. Oh, and let's just make sure that I'm in the right, that I'm headed to the right orbit. Yeah, between 25 kilometers and 1,000 kilometers, so the 400 kilometers that I'm headed to should be well within that range. Okay, my periapsis is below ground level, which means that I'm on a trajectory to crash, which is what I want at this point, because I want my my extra engine there to crash. But I don't want to crash myself, so let's get off of that trajectory. And these ion engines, they do not put out a lot of thrust, so it can take a little while to get into the orbit you want using ion engines, but eventually we'll get there. Okay, and we're a little over 30 seconds off, so I'm going to set up an actual maneuver node. That should be a little bit more precise. Let's do our survey and get this one going, just to have it. Now let's see what our ore deposits are like. And these get randomized in every playthrough, so I don't know where our ore is going to be. %. Okay, 50. Let's see. It's that as high as we can get. 60, and now, oh, but that's on the wrong side of the Mun. I don't want to set up a mining base on this side of the Mun because it won't be able to send any radio signals to Kerbin. The only way I'll be able to communicate with it is by bouncing the signal off of a relay like the satellite, but the satellite is only going to be in the right position at certain points of its orbit, so I don't want to do that. So in order to get, okay, in order to get a useful landing spot, we're going to have to go down to 40%, which means we won't be getting too much ore, but again, hopefully we won't need too much. So now that that's done, let me just make sure this is set up the right way. No. There, now it's got the right name. Okay, so that's done, and the Minmus mission is still a little ways off, so let's set up our actual mine, because we've got enough parts unlocked to do that now. And here is our mining outpost. It's got landing legs so that it can stay landed. And this crew compartment so that people can stay on the surface if they need to. And if I open these doors, I got a couple of science experiments here and a couple more here. That's basically because sometimes you get contracts saying to get science from the surface of a planet or moon, and this way we'll always be able to get that science without having to send a new mission up. And we got the same ore converter that we had on the station, but we've also got drills built in. We got just a tiny little tank here because we don't need to store any ore on this outpost. We just need to use it to refuel whatever we attach to this top docking port. And now there is a trick to docking on those top docking ports, and I think I will be able to show that off this stream. That is one of the things I really wanted to show off in these streams, is my techniques for very precise landings, because I don't know if that's common knowledge among Kerbal Space Program players, so it might be useful information to know. And again, we got another cargo container, and this one has a It has a science thing built in, but I'm actually going to get rid of that science thing, because we got 2 science things in the station above the Mun already. So I'm going to be getting rid of that science thing and just using one of the ones that we already have there if we need to do science on the Mun. And we got a very tiny fuel tank that's so that it has enough fuel to run these fuel cells. These fuel cells, what they do is they convert fuel into electricity, and that way this can keep running even when it's on the night side of the Mun. But when it's on the day side of the Mun, it's got these big giant solar panels, so they'll provide more than enough power for that. And it's also got this little scanning module, which will tell me exactly how much ore there is wherever I have it landed. So let's get that up onto the Mun. And to get it down onto the Mun, I'm going to need a vessel with its engines spread out wide, so that I can have it attached to the top, but still have the engine thrust going down to the sides, so that it doesn't just end up blowing up the outpost itself. And to do that, I have a ship set up for that, which is our fuel lifter. So this, as you can see, is very big. Its engines are wide, so that it has plenty of clearance, so that I can fire its engines and not hit the station itself. It's got a big giant fuel tank here, and 2 smaller fuel tanks here that only carry liquid fuel, because once I get a few more parts unlocked, liquid fuel becomes very important, because I start using a lot of ships that only use liquid fuel instead of liquid fuel and oxidizer, which is what I've been using in everything else. And for the rest, it's got the basics, solar panels, probe core, reaction wheel. It also has these burner engines, which will allow me to control it using RCS. RCS is a method of making very fine adjustments to a ship's trajectory. It's not good for major burns, which is why I have these main engines here, but it is good for, say, if you want to dock with the station, you want to be able to, make little adjustments in any direction. I've got these facing forward, backward, and in all 4 directions around the sides. And these are also going to be very useful for landing, because if I want to make a precise landing, I have to be able to do some precise flying, and I'm going to need these engines for that. There's a bunch of types of these, but these particular engines use the same fuel that I've got in this tank, which means that I won't have to... well, actually, I do have another tank. This monopropellant is the type of fuel that the other burner engines use, but I'm still not using that. I'm still using the type of burner engines that use this type of fuel, because they're a little bit more powerful, and this tank is really just for carrying monopropellant up to a station. I don't have a station with a monopropellant tank on it yet, but that can happen in the future. So, okay, this is full of fuel. Are these full of fuel? No, but I don't want them to be full of fuel. And how much delta V does that give me? 2188. Let's give it a little bit more, just to be safe, because I'm going to need to use this fuel both to get to the Mun and to land it. I won't need enough fuel left over to take off again, because I'll be able to mine for more fuel and fill my tanks up that way. But I will need to get to the Mun with a decent amount left over. So let's put another engine on here. And let's close these doors. Not yet. And let's need some struts to make this a little bit more secure so that it doesn't wobble around too much while I'm flying. Oh, that's not what I wanted. No, this is facing the wrong way. Let's just try that again. Yeah, that's what I want. When you're attaching struts, it's important to attach them to the part that you plan to discard, because this top attachment, that will disappear when I discard this, but the bottom attachment won't. So I like to make sure that the bottom attachment, the one that I place first, is on the part that I'm getting rid of. And now I don't want any crew on this, so sometimes they do automatically load crew onto parts, so you always have to double check that. I don't want any mon-propellant to go into this tank when I'm mining or something like that, so I'll shut that off just to be sure. So now let's get this into orbit. Oh, maybe I can't get this into orbit. Well, let's see. If I use this fairing, will that give me enough clearance to... No, it won't. I'm gonna have to use the big fairing, but then I'll have to use the big engines underneath it. And I don't have big engines unlocked yet, although I do still have some science. Let's save. Do I have enough science? 183. I don't think that'll be enough science. Right, I need 550 science to do what I'm planning, so I can't drop that base yet. But I should have some science in the station, so let's take a look at that. Oh, but I didn't have very much science in the station. Okay. So how do I get more science? Obviously, I could just wait for the station to generate more science, but I prefer not to do that just yet. Can I get more science from this? A little bit. And I don't think I can get more science from this. No, I can't. Okay, now what about from Minmus? Can I get more science from its satellite? Because those gravity scans will give you different readings depending on which part of the planet or moon that you're above. So if I'm above a part that I haven't done a reading on, then no. What about Ike? Well, first let's... Okay, 222. Now, if I can't get enough science, it's not the end of the world. I'll just have to wait a little while before I can actually drop that base, but kind of wanted to do that. No, that won't give me any more science. Okay. So that won't work. So let's finish our Minmus mission, and once that's done, our station around the Mun should have processed a little bit more data and given us a little bit more science. And I can't just click directly on Minmus because I don't know why, but Kerbal Space Program doesn't let you do that. So I like to click on the Mun and then use the Tab key to focus on Minmus. Okay, and I've been using the burner engines that I just talked about to make those adjustments, because I got those engines on this lander as well. I don't think I mentioned that while it was in construction, but I do. Okay, and I've kind of been assuming that this ship is what I think it is, and that it is on an equatorial orbit, although I'm not positive about that. So let's... No, it's not on an equatorial orbit, so let's get it onto an equatorial orbit so that we can use it as a guide to get other things onto equatorial orbits. That's the wrong way. I'm just going to have to use trial and error to get this maneuver in the right place. Okay, that should be the right place. And this played a vital role in last week's stream, since this now has all of the stored data from a Minmus landing. Well, Minmus landing and also some data from Minmus orbit, but it has everything I'd want to process in a science lab around Minmus once I finish processing the data around the Mun. Okay, that was a mistake. It looks like it had me controlling this backwards, which happens sometimes in Kerbal Space Program. It just somehow decides that one of your backwards-facing docking ports is actually the front of the ship, so that when you try to move, you move in the wrong direction. I'm off the actual point where I'd set that up, but... Oh, and my inclination is still a little bit off. If I set up another node a little bit forward, will that get me there? No. Gotta set it up a little bit backwards. Where do I have to have this set up? Yeah, I gotta use trial and error, but it should be nearby. Oh, there it is. Okay, so that should get me to 0 inclination. It'd be really nice if Kerbal Space Program would just tell you where you cross the equator, but it doesn't. Okay, now we're at 0 inclinations. Now this makes a good indicator where the equator is. So let's get back to our actual mission. And we'll probably need to make some adjustments. Yeah, 3 minutes, that's good. And yeah, I like to set my periapsis on the ascending or descending node, because that way, once I've captured, my apoapsis will be on the opposite planar node, and then adjusting my plane will be very easy. Close enough. And here the trade-off is if I set my apoapsis very high, then it'll be efficient, but it'll also be very slow. So I like to set a decent middle ground, but I just kind of eyeball it. I don't really have any rock solid advice on where to set it, but I like to have it be fairly long, but not too long. That's what she said. So let's see how much science we've got during the time we took tending to that mission. 30. So how far off are we from being able to load more science into this? 112, is that our lowest? Yeah, so we can't load anything into it yet. We got a maximum of 750, and I like to keep it loaded to that maximum as close as I can, because the more data you have in a science lab, the faster it processes the science. And now that we've done some time warping, let's see if any of our satellites are ready to get some more science. Where is the science experiment? Oh, there it is. Okay. Good. Polar. Oh, okay. Yeah, it takes a lot of power to transmit one of these experiments, so I ran out of power. So let's just push time ahead a little bit until our batteries recharge. Oh, this can also give me some more science. Yeah, I wanted to have that Mun mission launched before the Minmus mission got to Minmus, but it really only needs to be launched by the time they're finished. And let's go to Ike and see if we've got any signs there. But I still don't have enough signs, so there really wasn't a reason to go back to the Space Center. But I might as well check on my missions and see if there's anything I want to pick up. The orbital station around the Mun. 1,000 units of monopropellant. I don't want to build a station with 1,000 units of monopropellant. And we've got a Taurus mission that's going to the Mun. And I don't think I'm going to bother with these Taurus. Okay, so let's finish with our Minmus mission, or continue with it at least. Let's do the adjustments that we need. And for Minmus, I like to orbit my stations at around 50 kilometers. Let's get that set up. Oh, wait. I don't want to do that yet because I haven't gotten rid of my engine yet. So let's get onto a collision course with the surface. There we are. I don't need that big engine now that I'm in orbit around Minmus. It doesn't take very much power to make any orbital adjustments that you need to when you're in orbit around a body this small. Okay, now let's get pointed back towards prograde. And make sure the fuel tank is empty. It is, so we can undock it. Now let's get our proper maneuver set up. it's going at the planar node instead of the apoapsis because it's more important that we be on the right orbital plane, which is equatorial, than it is that we get the absolute most efficient orbital change. And there, that should be good. Using my burner engines to make the small adjustments that I need. I think I might have overshot a little bit. Did I, or did I? No, it looks like I undershot. Okay. Okay, we're in a 50-kilometer orbit. Now, let's save our game, because what I'm going to do next is a little bit risky. So if I detach this... Okay, that's bad. What I want to do is land this on Minmus, and then get some ore and come back. And the amount of fuel, the amount of delta V you need to land and, well, land or get into orbit is going to be at least the amount of orbital velocity you have, plus a little bit more to take care of any velocity you pick up due to gravity. Which means to land and come back, I need double this, which plus a little bit more for safety. And I have double this, but there's not much of a safety margin, and when I come back, I'm going to be carrying ore, which means that I won't actually have this much delta V, because I'll be a lot heavier. So that means, I'm going to load my save, that means that I can't actually complete my mission. Not like this. I'm going to have to send up some extra fuel. So that's what I'll do. First, let's send off our science from our science lab. Yeah, we still don't have enough space free to load any more data into the science lab. Okay. But when I'm sending up my extra fuel, I can actually show off a new ship that is important for my space mission, my space program, that I meant to include in that Minmus mission, but I forgot about it. So it'll be a good chance to do it now. And that ship is the Pusher robot, perfect for protecting you from the terrible secret of space. So this is normally an unmanned ship, though it does have this command seat that will allow it to carry one Kerbal if it needs to, but that's mostly for rescue missions and things like that. And one of the key aspects of the ship is that it is nuclear powered. Now, nuclear engines are special in that they only use liquid fuel, and these tanks only carry liquid fuel. They don't carry oxidizer. And a nuclear engine is very efficient, but it is very heavy and it doesn't generate very much thrust. So it's not good for launches, but it is good once you're actually in space for doing orbital adjustments and orbital transfers and anything for that you need. And so this, the purpose of this is to use its docking port to attach itself to other vessels and get them where they need to go, to push them wherever they need to go. And this is its main docking port. It also has these two small docking ports on the side. Those are not good for carrying cargo. I'll use the main docking port for that, but what they are good for is allowing this to attach itself to a station if its docking port is already occupied. A lot of the time, whatever I'm docked to with this docking port will have a docking port of its own, in which case I won't need this. I'll just be able to use the docking port on the cargo to attach to a station. But sometimes I don't have that, and it's really nice to be able to just attach myself to a station using these side docking ports. These are air brakes. Oh no, I hit the wrong button for that. Let me reload. Okay, these are air brakes. I do not want to remove them from symmetry. I want to deploy them. And what these do is they brake air. They make this less aerodynamic, which is important because one of the techniques I use with this is if I'm trying to get back from the Mun or Minmus, instead of using my rocket thrusts to lower my orbit once I'm in a Kerbal orbit, I instead dip into the upper atmosphere and use air resistance to slow myself down. It usually takes a few orbits to go around if I want to be able to dip myself low enough into the atmosphere to generate a meaningful amount of air resistance, but not so low that I blow myself up. But it is pretty useful for efficiently getting back to Kerbal without needing to use too much fuel. And any other tricks that this has? Oh, it has an antenna, of course, but this is a fairly high-powered antenna. It's enough to barely reach Duna or Eve, but mostly it's enough so that if I send this on an interplanetary mission to a planet that already has a relay around it, then this antenna will usually be enough to keep me in contact. For the outer planets like Jool and Elu, it will have a dead spot in the middle of the trip, but it'll still stay in contact for a good portion of the trip, which means if I need to make orbital adjustments, I'll be able to do that. So now, of course, this only has liquid fuel, so that won't have the fuel I need to rescue my lander mission. So I'm going to have to give it some extra fuel. I'm going to set up 2 medium-sized tanks instead of 1 larger tank because I'm going to be using this as an extra fuel tank for other missions, just in case I need more. And it'll be easier to get the right amount of fuel if I have 2 small tanks instead of 1 big one, since I can fill it half full if I need to, fill it all the way full, and transfer fuel from one to the other if I need to transfer fuel into another vessel. And on that note, I'm also going to give it a small tank to let me make more fine-grained adjustments to the level of fuel that it or anything that it's stocked to carries, and also for another purpose, which I'm going to get into in a minute. So, now, there will be times when I'll want to send a craft on an interplanetary mission, but it won't have the right kind of antenna for interplanetary distances. So I don't need that for this particular mission because this one has a good antenna, but I'm going to put another antenna on here because I'm going to be reusing this tank for other missions. And now this is unbalanced. It needs something on the other side so that it's got the same amount of weight on both sides. I could just put another antenna there. That would upgrade my range a little bit, but it would be actually more useful for me to put something else on here. Oh, wait. Okay, I don't have that part unlocked, so let me, I had this all planned out, but, well, not completely planned out, but, I don't want to build this without the parts I need. Oh, wait. No, I do have it unlocked. I think I was just looking in the wrong place. Let's hope I still have it. Have the ship, because, yeah, sometimes it just erases the ship, but it didn't do that this time, so that's good. Okay, so we got a fuel cell that I talked about fuel cells on the Mun mining base, but this one is a smaller one that is the same weight as the antenna here, and this means that if I try to bring a vessel that only has solar panels and I want to get it to Joule or Elu, or into the outer planets where solar panels don't work very well anymore, I can just use this fuel cell to convert rocket fuel into electricity, and that's one of the reasons why I have this small tank. It's that way I can put liquid fuel and oxidizer into this tank, but if I'm using something like this to do that mission, then I won't want to have oxidizer in there because the pusher robot here doesn't use oxidizer. So this can be full of both types of fuel. Well, these can just be full of liquid fuel to give me more range, and that way I can convert this fuel to electricity, which will likely be all I need to complete a mission. But yeah, I haven't actually used one of these supplementary tanks on a previous save, but I think this will be fairly useful. Okay, so now let's get this into orbit. That's the wrong decoupler. Let's wrap in a bearing. And let's turn off these engines, these tanks, because I want to keep them full so I can transfer their fuel into the Minmus mission. And let's set this to vacuum, and yeah, I should still have plenty of fuel. So I just need to get this into orbit now. How heavy is it? 19 tons. That should just be enough for one of these engines. on a little bit of a steeper trajectory than I'd like, but I think this will still be fine. Let's get into the upper atmosphere. Okay, I usually like to get my apoapsis to 75 kilometers. Now I'm a little bit below that, but I should still be fine. Although my burn is going to be a bit slow, so I'm going to start the burn as soon as I eject my fairing and everything. I'm just going to keep burning. I'm going to turn off my prograde hold so that my nose starts pitching upward a little bit as I go along. Because I'm afraid I might drop back into the atmosphere before I've circularized. Because, like I said, these engines don't put out that much thrust. And they're very heavy, so hopefully I'll be able to get circularized before I drop. But I'm not going to be able to get circularized before I pass the apoapsis. So, yeah, I'm starting to go down, but I've still got 5 kilometers before I actually fall into the atmosphere. And even if I do fall into the atmosphere, if it's still in the upper atmosphere, it won't be a huge deal. Yeah, I think I am going to fall into the atmosphere, but hopefully I won't be in the atmosphere for too long before I can get circularized. Before I start moving upward again. If I drop below 60, then I'm going to revert this launch and try again. I think I went up too steep, and I think it might make sense for me to transfer some of my fuel from this tank into my launch rocket, because yeah, I don't need all this fuel to rescue my Minmus mission. So yeah, I'm gonna revert to launch. I don't think I need to make changes to my ship, but I do need to make changes to how I launch. Let's transfer the fuel. coast up to the upper atmosphere. Okay, so my apoapsis is at 75 kilometers, and I've still got some fuel left over. So this time circularization will be a little bit easier, but yeah, it's... Okay, yeah, this time I think I'll be able to get this thing into orbit. And I've got tons of fuel left over, so getting this to Minmus won't be a problem. So let's set up our maneuver. What? I'm not in orbit. I guess I must have not done that node perfectly, and I didn't bother to check. I'm just blasting radial out to try to get up as soon as I can. You can tell when you're in orbit or not because the music will stop when you go back into the atmosphere. At least on Kerbin. That doesn't happen on other planets, but it does on Kerbin. So that gave me a bit of a warning. Okay. So yeah, I wasn't properly in orbit, so I gotta fix that. Let's set up another maneuver here. Now I'm past where I usually end my streams, but I'd like to at least get that Mun base on the Mun before I stop the stream. Now, as I said, this will be my last stream for Kerbal Space Program for a while, but I'm going to be traveling at the end of August, so I'm going to miss my stream on the 26th. But I do hope to have a YouTube video uploaded on the 28th, that's the Friday after the 26th. That's when I usually upload my videos, which will be an offline session of Kerbal Space Program that will be more heavily edited than my streams usually are. And that way I'll have something to put on YouTube while I'm on my vacation, and I'll be able to show a little bit more Kerbal Space Program. So it's win-win. And that precise node-to-node landing that I was planning on doing, I think that will be what I start that YouTube video with. Not node-to-node, port-to-port. Okay, so I'm almost at 500 science, which will let me launch that Mun mission I want. And do I have... Yeah, that is already active. I think I activated that when I was building the ship originally. Because another thing with these nuclear engines is that they run very hot, so I like to put radiators on them. But I didn't turn off my liquid fuel here. That's not a huge problem. It just means that I'm using less fuel from these tanks and more fuel from these tanks. I'll just have to fix that once I'm at Minmus. Or at least once this burn is done. Well, that also means that the fuel that I have left here isn't accurate, because I'm not going to be able to use all that fuel. Some of that has to go into my other mission. Oh, and I'm also going to extend my antenna here. I have that bound to a hotkey because when I'm doing those aerobrake maneuvers that I talked about, I like to have my antenna retracted so that it doesn't catch fire and blow up. So I like to have like to have that bound to a hotkey so I can do that easily. The aero brakes are also bound to a hotkey. I just push a number on my keyboard and it will extend them or retract them, which doesn't make a difference when I'm in space, but it does make a difference when I'm in an atmosphere. My lights just flickered. I hope that's just a bad bulb and not that I'm about to lose power. I mean, my real lights in my apartment. Oh, and you can see the radiator doing its job. Getting very hot, but it's supposed to do that. That's what it's there for. It gets hot so that the rest of the ship doesn't. Oh, I overshot a little bit, but that's okay. What? Why is this in such a weird orbit? Did I reload a save from before I circularized this? I must have. Luckily, it's not too long ago, because I still have that maneuver node coming up, but that's very strange. I'm not sure how that happened. Let's go back to the Minmus fuel, and this is showing up as a rover on my map because Kerbal Space Program thinks that anything with an external command seat is a rover. No, that's not what I wanted. That is what I wanted. Let's get this lined up. Now I know I reloaded a save after I detached the mining lander. All I can think of is that the save I made before that must have been before I circularized, because I made a special save before that in the with the pre-landing name, but I must not have done a quick save. Anyway, I can still circularize this. That's not a problem. It's just a little bit unexpected. Now I'm in a good orbit. So let's go back to the fuel mission. Get this headed towards Minmus. Okay, and let's turn off the fuel here because I don't want to use any of that fuel, and let's transfer some fuel over so that the tank is full. Okay, so that's my real fuel remaining. Well, my real Delta V remaining, but it should be more than enough to do everything I need to do. Because once this mission is done, then I'll effectively have infinite fuel at Minmus, because I'll be able to just go to the surface, mine, come back, and convert that ore into fuel. I'll be able to do that as many times as I want to. Because you never run out of ore on a planet or moon in Kerbal Space Program. Your deposits always stay there no matter how much you mine them, which is nice. Let's go back and check on our science. See how much we've built up in the time that we've been doing that fuel mission. 25, which brings us to still not enough for the Mun mission. Set itself to target mode, which I don't want because I'm still doing orbital adjustments, but sometimes if you're close enough to a target, it'll just automatically go into target mode, so you've always got to be careful of that. Our rendezvous using our usual method. Actually, I think I'm close enough already. I don't need to make any more fine-tunements? Whatever you want to call them. All right. Should get me pretty close. How much science do I have? I still need 100 more science before I can do the Mun mission. I think I built up a little bit more science, but not that much. So I'll have to skip ahead by a few days. So I want to do the Mun mission before I sign off for this stream. This also has burner engines, but these ones are the smaller ones that do use monopropellant. I've got that in these yellow tanks in the sides here, but it's really useful to have them, but they're not strictly necessary. So if I'm not going to be reusing a ship, I often don't include them. But for ships like this that I'm going to be using a lot, the burner engines really help. Or actually, no, I don't think these ones are called burner engines. They're RCS engines. It's only those, the other ones that use the regular rocket fuel that are actually called burner engines, which they call them that because the actual RCS engines are sometimes called Bernier engines. Okay, now let's get docked. And since both these vessels have full SAS, I can do the really easy docking method, which is I set one to just automatically point towards the port, and then I switch to the other vessel. I control from the port, set the other port as my target, and then use this to automatically point it in the direction it needs to be pointed. And as you see, that one is also adjusting its direction so that it keeps pointing at the port. And I'm aiming exactly where I need to be aiming. Just get it so that the antenna is facing away from the station so it doesn't hit anything. Okay, and then I can use my RCS engines to make some finer adjustments. All right, we're docked, and now let's give this thing some fuel. You need to fill up 2 tanks, then you got to make sure you use the out buttons on the tank that you're filling from, otherwise they won't be balanced. But since I'm filling these tanks up all the way, that doesn't really matter, but it's good practice anyway. Okay, so now my fuel tanks on here are completely full. and I can do my landing. I'm going to save my game just to be safe, but now that my tanks are full, this isn't very risky anymore. Let's just make sure I'm controlling my point. I am. Let's get some distance away from the station. And now let's get ourselves into a lower orbit. Okay, now that I'm safely away from the station, I can extend the solar panels on this, which I also have bound to a hotkey, because it's useful to be able to extend everything all at once. And now let's see where we want to land. So where do we have ore? Oh, this will be nice. That'll be a nice flat piece of land with ore in it. So yeah, that's where I'm going to land. But first, I gotta circularize into a low orbit. And extend my landing legs. I just hope I get to that landing spot before it goes into the night side of Minmus, because that'll make landing a little bit more difficult. Yeah, and it's heading there, but let's see if I can make it. Okay. But I do have some lights on the bottom of this, which should make it a little bit easier, but I don't know if I'll need them, because we're still on the light side of the planet, or of the moon. Oh, but yeah, now we're heading into the night side. And now we're so close to the surface that I can't time warp, though I can still physics warp. That's hold shift and hit the time warp key, and you can't time warp nearly as quickly, but it keeps all the physics calculations going. Okay, so now let's start slowing down. And we're on the ground. So let's see how much ore we really have here. Oh, 14.13%. That's a really good amount of ore. Let's run our analysis. I don't know what running analysis does, but I like to do it just to do it. You can only do it once per biome, so now we've done that here. It doesn't give you any science, though, so I don't know what the point of it is. Now let's, actually no, I don't want to deploy my drill from there. I want to use my hotkey, because that will also turn my radiators on. And now let's start it mining. And my engineer will make the mining go more quickly, so I'm going to EVA my scientist to plant a flag here, who is Febrit. So let's EVA Febrit. Plant the flag. Oh, and I had a mission to plant a flag, so it's a good thing I did that. And we don't need to write anything special here because we're going to be taking the flag down. I just planted the flag so that my astronauts could get experience. Yeah. And it'll take a little while to fill its tanks, so let's go back. Oh, first of all, now, I did put some science experiments on this lander because they're light, so I might as well. And as I mentioned when I was showing off the Mun base, sometimes you get missions to get some science from the surface of the body, and I don't plan to put anything permanently on the surface of Minmus, but this will be landing fairly often, so it'll be good to be able to do some science while I'm there and get those contracts. And all this science that I'm doing, yeah, that'll put me over the 550 that I need. So once this is done transmitting, I'll be able to go back and launch that Mun mission that I've been wanting to launch for a while. Okay. So yeah, now we have more than enough science. So let's put together our Mun mission again. Let's start with a fuel lifter. And attach our mining outpost. Okay, and that is attached in such a way that as long as I have my solar panels retracted, they won't get in the way of the engines, which is good. And a decoupler. Some more fuel and another engine. Some struts to hold it all in place. That will... Oh, it's going all the way. Okay, actually, no, that's not going where I want it to go, but if I attach the strut to here... Ah. Oh, well, that's good enough, but I didn't make it symmetrical, so let me make sure I do that. Okay, yeah, that'll be good. And now, just to get this whole thing into orbit, but I don't want any crew on it. Okay, there aren't any crew on it, that's good. And it wasn't showing me anywhere where I could put crew, which is another bug in Kerbal Space Program, which, as I mentioned, Kerbal Space Program is full of bugs, because I do have a part here that could have crew, but it doesn't realize that for some reason. And I forgot something. Okay, so let's not save, and hopefully it won't erase this while we're away from the vehicle assembly building. Because I didn't actually unlock the engine that we need. There, now it's unlocked, and let's hope that our ship is still there so I don't have to rebuild it. So I don't want to push past the 3-hour mark. Going past 2 hours, it's bad enough. Okay, good. Ship's still here. Let's give it some fuel. I think I'll have to put another tank on here since I didn't unlock the really huge fuel tanks. So that's okay. And we got a really huge engine. And I think this will be enough to get into orbit. Let's just make sure there's no crew on board. There isn't, but now it is showing where crew could go. But yeah, there isn't any crew here. And now let's get our staging correct. Oh, no, actually this is what it should be. And let's enable cross-feed, because I'm using both this and these engines at the same time. Just make sure I'm not carrying any excess fuel, but I am carrying the fuel I want to carry. And make sure that this is shut off. And yeah, this should do it. So let's get into orbit. Let's give it a bit more curve. Yeah, this should be good. Let's just target the Mun. Do it later. It should be able to get into the upper atmosphere now. Bit of excess heat on the fairing, but not enough to be a problem. Now these don't really mean what they look like they mean, because it doesn't mean that I'm going to run out of fuel. Although, maybe it could. I could just drop that fuel tank. Oh yeah, it's only using fuel from that little tank, so maybe I will drop it. Might as well drop it. I'll be carrying dead weight. Okay, so it takes about 1,000 meters per second of delta V to get into orbit around the Mun, and then another 600 or 700 meters per second to land. So I should be all right, but I might grab a bit more fuel from the Mun station when I get there, just to be safe. Okay, that should be good. Okay, 12 kilometers above ground level. That should be fine. Let's make sure we into the right orbit. I got 10 minutes before I hit the 3-hour mark. I'd really like to get this done before that. And normal rendezvous procedure. So now I should be able to rendezvous with the station, get some extra fuel, and then land. I don't know if I actually need the extra fuel. I think I have enough, but never hurts to be safe. And this is going to be carrying a lot of its own fuel into orbit once it's got its mining operations going. So I'm just borrowing the fuel, really. Really nice to have RCS. It makes these fine tunings a lot easier. I used to have to go and set my engine thrust to 0.5, which is really tough to get the mouse position exactly right for that. But now I can just hit U and J. I don't know. I just do that from muscle memory. I actually forget which keys it is. Alright, let's check which keys. It's H and N. Don't know why I forgot that, but okay, so now let's get docked. Now, there's no particular reason why I'm docking with the science module here. It's just the only port that's available. Well, actually, there's another port available, but doesn't really matter. Oh, and this one does not have full SAS, so I'm going to have to set it to its target manually. And let's also send off our science. Always annoying having to dock in the dark, but whatever. And make the fine tunings again to get pointed in the right direction. Then I'm going to switch to this one so that I can manually keep it in the right direction. Fuel lifter has the right kind of probe core that it will automatically keep pointing in the right direction, but for this side I have to do it myself. Yeah, thanks for sticking around. And yeah, the stream will probably be over very soon. I just got to do this landing, and then I'll be done for the night. Yeah, and I'm going to go a little bit past 10 o'clock, I think, but not too much past it. So let's save our game, just to be safe. Switch to the right control point. Drift away from the station to get a bit of distance. And get into a low orbit. Extend our landing gear. Let's pick a spot to land on. Oh, we got a problem here. The side that's facing Kerbin is in night. I'll risk it, because I want to finish this stream. I don't want to land my base on the far side of the Mun, because it won't be able to maintain communication with Kerbin there. But I'd also prefer not to land at night, but if I have to, then I have to. The only other option would be to leave it in orbit for a while and just wait. And I could do that normally, but not when I'm on stream. The stream is going too long already. I could land it here. Actually, this will be a better place to land it. Maybe it will have gone into the daylight side by the time I get there. But even if it doesn't, at least that means it'll be in the daylight side soon. And I want to have my solar panels lined up with the Milky Way because the sun is always in the Milky Way, so that's a good way to make sure that they always get power. Save my game just for safe, and I switch over to above ground level mode because I'm really going to need that to land, and I'm going to turn my lights on. Although I don't have proper landing lights. Oh, actually I do have that light. That's more of a porch light. It's designed to be. It's just designed to illuminate the area in front of the hatch, but it'll also illuminate the ground just before we touch down, so that'll be useful. I don't normally do these nighttime landings, but if I want to get this done before too late, I gotta do it. Mostly pointing straight up and down. Okay, we're landed. Okay. Are we stable? Oh, we're sliding. I don't like that. Maybe we'll slide into a flatter piece of land. Because the fact that we're on very slanted ground is actually not good. Well, first let's make sure, okay, we're in what should be a high ore area. Let's see if we're in actually a high ore area. 8.48, that's actually a decent amount of ore. Not ideal, but not worth complaining about. But the fact that we're on a slanted piece of ground, for one thing, it means that we're sliding, which I don't like to do, but it seems to be happening. And it also will make it a lot harder to do our landings. So before I leave this, well, I'm going to be doing this off stream, but I will pull this up and find another landing spot for it. It'll be one nearby, but on more level ground, so that the docking port is facing straight up, because that is pretty important to being able to land within the any degree of well, with it being easy at all to land. Now, can't quick save when moving over the surface. Can I physics warp? This is risky. Maybe I should redo the whole landing. Yeah, I'm gonna redo the whole landing because yeah, this ground is way too slanted, but I want to end this stream with the mine at least in a stable spot. Yeah, let's land there. I hope I didn't start this burn too late. I think I might have. I think I did. Yes, I did. Alright, but I got to save, so I can try that again. Would be a lot easier if I could see, but it's night, so I can't. Now let's hope I end up on a better piece of ground, more level piece of ground. Doesn't have to be perfectly level, although I will be adjusting my landing spot until I do find a piece of ground that's as close to perfectly level as I can find it. But it has to be level enough so that I'm not sliding around. Now, you'd think these drills would be enough to keep me anchored down, but they're not. I'm sliding a little bit more slowly. Will this be enough to let me do a quick save and let me switch away from this vessel? Okay, good. I can do a quick save. Can I go back to the science center? Yes, I can. Okay. So that's the stream. And that was my last Kerbal Space Program stream, although I will be recording a Kerbal Space Program video that will be uploaded at my usual time for the last week of August, because I'll be traveling through that week and won't be able to record a stream, or to stream a stream. And the plus side of it being a pre-recorded video is that I'll be able to fast forward through all the boring parts. So expect that one to be a little bit more dense in its material. But yeah, I will be streaming next week, though. I just won't be streaming Kerbal Space Program. I'll be streaming another game. I've got a good idea of what it's going to be, but I don't like to announce it in advance, just in case I change my mind. But thank you to all the people who tuned in. Thank you to all the people who have been watching on YouTube. My YouTube stats have been going through the roof, or through my roof, which is still not that much, but it's a lot more than any of my previous videos have gotten. So they've been going up a lot since I've been streaming Kerbal Space Program. I don't know if they'll stay that way when I switch to another game, but hopefully I'll be able to keep at least a few viewers, or even if I don't keep any actual viewers, hopefully the algorithm will still like me a little bit more than it did before I started streaming Kerbal Space Program. So I'll be able to find viewers who like my retro and indie streams as well. So yeah, but yeah, I'll be back again next week, 7 p.m. Eastern as usual, Wednesday at 7, and I hope to see you there. If you're not just tuning in for Kerbal, then yeah, if you are just tuning in for Kerbal, then yeah, that's your choice. But yeah, I'll be back then. Thanks.